Hi, I'm Amy Redman. I'm so glad you're joining me to paint today. I am just going to go through a few small techniques and build toward an ocean scene with a sunset sky. So that's going to be done in 3 different quick videos. We're going to start with our sky, and to begin, let me tell you about the colors of paint that we're going to be using. So let's start here with our white. We have a cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, violet, raw umber, which is a dark brown, raw sienna, which is a gold color, a bright red, chrome orange, deep yellow, chrome yellow, and then we're back to white. I'm just going to be using one brush for this particular piece of the painting. And it's going to be a large brush, a large flat brush. And this particular one happens to be a size 10, but I have to tell you, with different manufacturers, the numbers change. There's no real consistency there. But if you get about a size 10, maybe a 12, you should be in good shape. We're going to make sure that whenever we wash the brush that we dig down to the bottom of the cup and really get the bristles to open up and release the paint there. Because if you just swish around the top, that's not going to release the paint. Then you want to scrape on the side of your cup. And then we also want to use some paper towel and squeeze that out. Make sure that we have a clean, moist brush, but not a wet brush, because with acrylic paint, which we're using, we want to work with those paints nice and rich. So we don't want to water those down because you're not going to get the coverage that you're looking for, but also you're going to be chasing drips down your canvas, and that's no fun at all. So to get started with our nice big flat brush here, I'm going to begin by loading my brush with some white and just a little bit of that chrome yellow. And I'm going to use a horizontal brush stroke because whenever we're working with something that our eye sees as flat, we want to use a horizontal stroke. So we're just going to go right across the bottom area here. And you could always add a little bit more of that yellow in there, but I caution you, don't put too much in or you're going to have such a yellow sky that it won't feel nice and kind of pastel-like a sunset. So we're just going to go about halfway down this canvas here and put in our yellow. We're going to wash out that brush. And again, scrape on the side and dry it off. And we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to add some blue up above. So once again, I'm going to load my brush with white, and I'm going to tap in just a little bit of that cobalt blue, that's that lighter blue. And again, we're going to just sweep across the top here. You can even have a little combination there in the middle, but we're going to be adding a lot more color into this sky, so don't worry about what it looks like right now. We do need to take about, maybe 10 minutes and let that dry before we get to the next step. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. So we've let that dry now, and you can even use a hair dryer on it to expedite things. That's what I did. So we do want that to be dry to the touch, and that way then we can layer over this and we can actually get the colors that we put on there to be the colors that we intend them to be, rather than having them mixed with yellows or blues and perhaps changing that color up a bit. So I'm going to add some blush tones, I think, into my sky first and kind of get this real pretty soft sky. But the beauty of sunset skies is that they can take on any color, any, shapes of clouds and what have you. And so there's really no right or wrong here. Have some fun with this. So in order to get kind of these blushy tones, I'm going to use just a little touch of my red and my orange and some white. And again, I'm loading my brush with several colors, and I think that that gives you much more life and energy to your painting if you let those colors mingle on the canvas rather than mixing up a color and then applying it. So let those colors just mix on there, and we're just going to kind of go across here, and I think I'm going to make my way out this direction and out that direction. And you see that I'm using a horizontal brush stroke, so I'm just tapping that little bit of paint onto my canvas, and I'm just going to kind of sweep that aside. So I'm going to now, when it's kind of a nice dry brush, I'm going to take advantage of that. I don't want to dip more paint in there because I want to now soften this up. And so now I'm going to just go back and forth here and soften up these colors here. I'm kind of thinking I want this to be a little bit lighter, so I'm going to take a bit more white on my brush here and soften that color. It doesn't have to be softened everywhere, but maybe just in spots here. And so remember that gravity and atmosphere, it's something that lays level, and so that's why we're using a horizontal brush stroke. So even though I'm building different shapes and sizes of these, clouds that are taking on the sunset colors, we definitely want to always be working in that horizontal brush stroke. If you start to go diagonal or up and down, it's not going to make sense to the eye. So keep them horizontal, soften that up a bit, and I think we're good there. Now I'm going to wash my brush out. I'm going to change color here. Stay with that large flat brush throughout this segment here of the painting. And this time I think I'm going to add some purples into my sky. So I think I'll do just a little bit of my violet there, and again some white, keeping all of my colors nice and soft in the sky. And I think I'll get some purples now, kind of starting to marry these two areas, and I'll add a little bit into this blue area here. And again, kind of soften with these horizontal brush strokes. And maybe just add a hint of that color, kind of going up into the blue a bit, but I don't want to cover up all of my blue or my yellow. I want to, I want to maintain some of that shining through there too. So I think I'm going to get just maybe a hint of kind of a magenta color with a touch of red and a little purple and white. And I think I'll just add a little bit. Now as you can see, red, I barely put any red on my brush. Red will take over very fast. So I do caution you when you use red, be very cautious with it. So let's do a little bit more purple and white on the brush, and I'm just going to kind of introduce a slightly different color there and kind of marry this blush tone with this purpley tone that's happening above. Again, you have some fun with this because I'm sure your sky is quite different than mine. Every time I do a sunset sky, it's quite different. So enjoy the journey of it because it's always a fun journey. And so I think we're about good there. Now, one thing that I do recommend is step away from your painting at times and get some perspective, because sometimes it's difficult when you're just 8 inches from your canvas to really be able to see what you're producing. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look. I think I'm going to be just fine. Of course, that sunset sky can be any which way at all. But I might decide, oh, I want to soften a few things here and there. I might just take this dry brush and, and again, just kind of add some other colors there. So, anyway, we'll be on to our ocean next. And after that, the next video will be to do some rocks and some waves. So join me for the next two as well, and we'll bring our painting all together. Thanks.